Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a long time since we uploaded a content, so there were many many things going on, so we couldn't do it, but we'll make sure to post regular contents on this channel so that you guys can watch it. So, without wasting much time, let's get into today's topic. So, today we are going to talk about like MongoDB installation. Okay, so I just kept the two options, one with going with all defaults, and other one is using tarball. Okay, so to do this demonstration, we are going to use a EC2 instance, which is from AWS, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so we are just going to talk of like see how the installation can be done, and like how easily you can set up your lab to get your hands on MongoDB. And we will also talk about like doing an installation with tarball. So that's how usually you do on your most of your production environments. Okay, so let's get started. So this is my EC2 AWS homepage. Okay, so let's spin up a EC2 instance, and it won't take much time. Okay, I'm going to spin up two machines. Let me name it MongoDB for now, and let's say two. I'm going to take two instance, and my OS will be Red Hat, and rest all I would leave it to defaults, and key pair I'll go with my existing key pair which I have. Okay, so rest all it's fine to go keep with default. So it will just take like a minute or two to easily spin up your VM. So that's how powerful the cloud technologies are nowadays. Okay, so though right now we are using AWS for today's session, so you should be seeing similar options with Azure or GCP as well. So it won't take much time to spin up a VM and do our testing. So you see, like I think we got our VM up and running. So I have two VMs here. Okay, so let's just quickly change this. I just want to differentiate this. So I'll just name it with default. One is default and other one is with probably I'll say custom, so that it will be easy for us to differentiate them. Okay, so this is one of our VM which we have, and if I click on this is my public IP which I can use. And before that, so just to let you know, so I am still using my free tier only, so that you don't have to pay anything for doing this lab. So all you have to do is like sign up for this AWS console, and you should be good to go. Okay, so let's go ahead, and if I click on my instance ID, I'll have my public IP using which I can connect. So let me copy, and let's go ahead and connect to our machine. So I should be giving my key pair which was set, and let's use that and try connecting. So I know my username would be EC2, and that's all. See how quick we were able to spin up a VM and make connection to that, right? So that's how easy it is nowadays. Or else like before and all, like what used to happen is we have to download the ISO image, you have to have a separate virtualization software like VMware or Oracle VirtualBox. In fact, I also do have one. Maybe later we can have a look. I also have a Mongo running on my local as well. But anyways, just to keep things simple, we thought it will be easy to go up with the AWS instance. Okay, so now we are connected. So if you have doubt like how I got this username like EC2 user, so I can just go here, and if I say connect, this is where your username will be. Okay, so that's the name we have to give for now. So let's go. And this is a this is like whatever installation we do, right, it should be with admin mode usually, like how we do it on Windows, right? When you install SQL, you should have admin mode. Similarly, in Linux world, we have this sudo users. Okay, so for this installation, again, like I'm going to switch my user to sudo. So once I switch, you'll be seeing this additional hash. Okay, so it says like I'm in a sudo user mode. So what I will do is, let's clear this. And so the very first installation what we are going to see is the default installation. Okay, so the default installation, you can pretty much follow the MongoDB documentation itself. It's pretty much straightforward. I mean, the both the installations are pretty much straightforward, but the default is much more easier, I would say. All it goes with default. With just one line of command, you can do the installation. So let's go ahead and select the version. I want to go with 4.2. So I just searched for install MongoDB and I landed up on the official MongoDB website. And there are different versions which we get, edition, I would say, different editions. So first we'll select the version. So I have selected 4.2 for this demo. And we are going to go with community edition, which is free. And then we have to select on which platform we are going to install. We have to, so for us it is going to be on Linux. And in Linux, what flavor our OS is running on. So if you don't know, so we have a separate file which can tell us. So I think it is OS release. So this will give you the details about your OS. So in our case, it is Red Hat Linux, version is 8.6. So it is ID is Fedora. So let's come back here, and for us it is Red Hat. So let's go into install Red Hat Community Edition. So here you will be seeing two options. One is to just install on Red Hat, and other one is to install using tarball. Okay, so first we will see the default one, like which everything, all configuration and all goes to default. Maybe once I do the installation, we can talk more about it. So to start this installation, the very first thing what we have to do is we have to create the repo. So let me copy this, and we'll quickly create a file. Okay, so where we are going to add this details so that we can directly download. So all I did is I just created a file, repo file, and copied this from the documentation. Then I'll just write and quit. That's it. So if I do cat, sorry, I think I didn't copy that path. Let me copy it again. I just want to view the contents of this file. Okay, there you go. So okay, we are done. The repo file is available now. Next, it's just, as I said, one line command which we have to run to install the MongoDB. That's all. So what will happen is it's going to pull the setup file and it's going to do the installation at the back end, and the configuration, everything, it's going to take the defaults. When I say configuration, it's like what is going to be my system path, like database path, log file path, port number, security, all those configuration, everything, it's going to take up a default one. So you could also see like what packages it is installing. Like we can see Mongo server, shell, tools. So these are the different components which are getting installed at the backend, and it's giving you the complete summary in the screen itself. So that's all. So we are done with our very first installation of MongoDB. So it just took like, I would say, 5 minutes to do all these setups. So it's that much easy. Okay, to at least start playing around with this, I would say. So now, so this says the installation is completed. So let's quickly check systemctl. We'll check the status of MongoDB. Okay. So it says the service is not started, it is inactive, active, it is dead. So let's go ahead and start. Okay, before starting, let's type Mongo. So this is how you connect to a Mongo from the server. Okay, so this is the Mongo shell, and when we try to connect right now, it says connection refused, which is kind of expected since our service is kind of not yet started. So let's say systemctl start MongoDB. Now let's go back and check the status. Okay, so as you can see, the service is active, and let's try connecting to Mongo now. I'll just clear the screen. So Mongo is the command which you can run to connect from the client, and there you go. So you can see we are inside Mongo. So if you look at these messages, this is giving you a whole bunch of information. Okay, so I'm connecting to, okay, before going to this information, let's check what this status check told us. Okay, so it said our service is running, it is active, and since 3 seconds ago, that's when we started. And this is the config file which we have used to start this MongoDB service. And what other things are there? So then it says like it has forked this process successfully and started MongoDB successfully. That's fine. Now if you come a little bit down, when we try to connect, it is giving you the Mongo server version. Okay, so we are in 4.2.21, and you do see few warning messages. Maybe these things we will discuss in our future videos. All these things comes in security part. And now after connecting, if you want to know the version, so you have this command called db.version, which will give you the MongoDB version. And if you want to see like what is the list of databases, show dbs is the command. So this will tell you the list of databases. So these are the default databases which gets created when you install MongoDB. Okay, so if you want to know to which database you are connected by default, so all you have to do is just type db. It will just print the database to which you are connected. So you might be wondering like when I ran the above command show dbs, it didn't list this test database. I'll just zoom in a bit so that it will be easy. So it didn't list this test database, but when I do db, it is saying test, but where is this database actually? So in MongoDB, by default, when you make a new connection, it is going to take you to the test database, which is an empty database. So basically, if a database is empty and if you do show dbs, it's not going to list under that. So at least you should have one collection at least created inside the database to get listed. So let's try creating a collection. No, so you don't have to worry about the commands. Maybe we'll talk more about it. So I'm just saying new collection, db.new collection, and I can insert a document and get this collection created. So let's say id1. That's all. So now if I do show collection, this should get listed. So this is my new collection which we just created, and now if I do show dbs, this is going to list my test database as well. So this is just a quick thing, like we are just trying to explore more about MongoDB, right? So these are some small commands using which you can run and practice. Okay, so you have something called, like, these are the default databases which I told, right? So let's for example, let's pick local DB. Okay, I switch to local database. So you have to use local to switch the database. And now let's see what collections are there here. Startup log. Let's try to query. Okay, in Mongo, how do you query is, it's db dot collection name, which is startup log. So tab completion works. So I can type till here and do a tab, it should auto complete. And find, if I do find, it's like doing a select. So if you want to take a equivalent thing of tsql, it's like doing a select star from startup.log. So in Mongo, I'll be doing something like db.startup underscore log dot find. So this find is like our select, and within find there are few other parameters which you could supply, which we will talk later. So that is like what data you're going to filter, what column you're going to fetch, those things and all can be defined here. So startup log, you can think of like that's our table. For example, if I'm comparing it RDBMS, you can think like that is our table kind of thing. Okay, so let's try to query and see what this has. Okay, so this is giving some big output. Okay, so Mongo has this nice option where I can say I need this output in a pretty format, so that it gives in a easy readable way. So if you see this output, it's kind of like everything in a single shot it has thrown. But when I do the command with pretty, it's going to format the data, which will be easy for us to read. So this startup log is nothing but how this Mongo process was started, what configuration using which it is started. So let's say if someone gives you a Mongo box and you don't know anything about the environment, so you could come here and query this collection. So this is going to give you a whole bunch of information. Like, this is where my config file is located. So using this config file only, my MongoDB process is started. And this is my network settings. So this is my port to which Mongo is listening. And then process management, storage. So this is where our journal path is there. Then system logs. So all these details can be obtained from this collection. Okay, so this is one quick thing which you could check. So moving on, next I want to talk a bit about this config file. Let's see what this contains, right? So it is in etc folder. Let's go there and see. So let's exit from this shell. Let's have a look at this config file basically. So if you see, this is having system log. So this is where my log file is residing, and this is my location for my data path, which is where I will be having my database files. And process management, fork equal to true, fork is set to true means it can run in background. It's not like if I start a process, that session should be active, it can run in background. And port is something like using which port I'm going to connect to my Mongo. Okay, so let's move. So these are the important things which I would like to highlight, and rest of other things we'll see in the coming session. So this is this is all about the default installation, guys. So let's move on and see how you can actually download the setup file and do the installation yourself, because here all these things are defaults. Let's say I don't want to go with this defaults. I want to have a separate location for my log file, data file, and config file, which you yourself going to define, and then you will be doing the installation. So in real time, that is how usually the installations will be. So you might be having a separate disk for data, log, and all. So let's see how to do that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another new session because we have two servers which was provisioned. So let's pick this MongoDB custom one. So this is my public IP. I can go here and take a SSH session, and let's give our key, PEM key, to authenticate. So again, like EC2 user, let's connect. Okay, and I'll just switch. So in real time, you might not be running things with root. Okay, you will have your own admin account or sudo user using which you could do these operations. So that is not a good practice. You should not be running things with root account. Okay, since this is for our learning purpose, so we are just going with a very minimal setup to learn things. So right now we are in the root directory, so which is the very base directory. Okay, and what we are going to do is, like, on this, let's say if I do print working directory, this is the base directory. Okay, so let me zoom in a little bit. What we are going to do is, like, we are going to create a folder here called MongoDB. Okay, and inside this folder only everything we are going to put. So let me go into this MongoDB, and we can make different folders, like one for data, one for log, one for setup, where we will be downloading and keeping all these media, and we'll have one more for config, where you will have the config file. Okay, just to, like, segregate things, right? So we are just keeping everything in a separate folder so that you get much control and you would decide where things are going to go. So let me see. Okay, so we got this 4 folders. So where we are going to download is, like, inside setup. Okay, so this is the place where all our media is going to reside. So let's go back to the MongoDB page, installation page, and let's go with this tarball setup. Okay, so in our case, again, it's going to be like what is that, Red Hat. Okay, so let's go to the download center. So here we are going to download the file from internet to the server, and then we will be doing the installation manually. Again, I'll go with the same 4.2 version. Let's go and select our platform. So for us, it is going to be Red Hat 8.0. Okay, and here make sure you select TGZ, and let's click on copy link. So in Linux you have something called this curl command. Okay, using which you can download the files from the server. Okay, so it's just one command which will download and give us the file. So now if I do ls, I have this tgz file. Okay, downloaded to my EC2 instance. So this is, you can think like this is a zip file. Okay, so now we have to extract this file tar, and let's have this parameter supplied, and let's call this t zip file. So now our files are getting extracted. Okay, if I do ls-l, so now I have, one is our zip and other one is our extracted folders. So let's get into the folder which we just extracted, and let me do ls-l. So these are the files which we have in this folder. Okay, so files, and we have something called bin directory. So let's see what bin contains. L to ls-l. So these are the different files which we have. Okay, so we will talk about all these files maybe in the coming session. For now we are going to focus only on these two maybe. Okay, Mongo and MongoD. So Mongo is the client using which we are making a connection. So if you are from SQL background, you can think of like how we have SSMS, right? SQL Server Management Studio, or you can think of SQL Developer, or those kind of client tools using which you connect to a database engine. Okay, so Mongo is something like that, and MongoD is the actual service, the daemon process which gets called at the backend. Okay, so now we got this setup files, right? So what we have to do is like we have to set up our environment variables, because like let's say whatever we have here, okay, right now I'm in bin folder. So here if I call Mongo, I should be able to call it. But let's say I want to call it from anywhere else, irrespective of whatever path I am in. So I have to set few configurations for that. Okay. So for that we have something called profiles. Okay. So where we have to update this path. Okay. Before moving on to that, let's copy this. No? So that it will be easy for us to update it. I have copied this. Let's keep it in our notepad. Now what I'm going to do is, let's quickly switch. It should be in etc profile dot t. Sorry, I gave cat. Okay, so here I'm going to create a folder file called mongo.sh. Okay, just you can, it's not like you should keep Mongo. I'm just keeping it for my reference, which will be easy for us. So let's go here. Okay, and I have this command actually pasted in my board, so I just have to change this. Okay, this is the command. Let's copy here. So this is our path, and this is the thing which we have to place. So it is export path, and the path where our binaries are residing, and we're just completing that. So what happens is, whenever a new profile gets loaded, so we should make sure like this gets called. Okay, so if I do ls-l, so this is our Mongo thing. So if you look at the permission, so it is just like having, others are having like only read. Okay, which means like at present only root has the permission to write, and root is the owner basically, so it can do anything. So let's modify this permission. Let's do chmod. So if I want others and everyone to execute that file whenever they log in, so I can go with 755 and reset this permission. Let's quickly cross check. Okay, now everything is set. Okay, so just to get this refreshed, let's open another tab, and let's again connect with EC2, and again let's go with sudo user. Done. So for now we don't need this session, we'll continue here. Okay, now we got the profile, everything set. Okay, so now what is pending is we have to prepare our configuration file. So we already have a configuration file which is there from our mm, default installation. Okay, let's pick few things from there, and we'll build our own configuration file. So again I'm going to notepad, and let's copy the important ones, like what all things we would be needing. those things alone let's copy, and let's build our own file maybe. Okay, so this is for system logs. So this is where my Mongo logs are going to be stored. So if I go back, let's go to this window, right? I will go to Mongo and I have this called log. So this is the location where I want my Mongo logs to reside. Okay, let's copy that and put it here. Next, data path. So for data, again, like we have a separate folder created for that. Let's get that. This is going to be my data path. Let us define that. And process management, yes, I want to fork this process. This should be true. And port and bind IP, I'll leave it to default. So which means like I can we'll talk about this later. Okay, so port is something what port Mongo is going to listen. What is the bind IP? Bind IP, this is the local loopback address. So I will leave it as it is. Let's copy this and let's go back to our config folder. Okay, now what I'm going to do is again like we'll create a conf file here with whatever, with limited set of parameters, basically whatever is really important to us. So this is my log file, this is my data file, and this is the port. Let's write and quit. Okay, I'll quickly view this. Okay, looks fine. Okay, now let's go back and we should go to Mongo setup, and inside this let's go to bin. Okay, let's go MongoDB then we are going to call our config file. So let's call and start. So what we did, so I just went to the bin folder and called this MongoDB, and -f is the parameter where we are going to supply the path of our config file. Okay, so if I do ps-ea, let me clear the screen, maybe clear ps-af, let's grep to Mongo. Wait, this is giving, let me come out of that folder. Grep Mongo. So this is our Mongo process, which is like using which I can confirm. So the process whatever we have started is running. Okay, so let me connect to Mongo, and there we are. So now we have our custom installation of Mongo being done, and we have our Mongo service up and running, and we are able to connect as well successfully. Okay, and again like if I do show DBs, it's going to list the database, everything. Let's exit from here. Let's go to Mongo and data. If I do ls-l, these are the files which I have in my data directory. And if I go to log, so I'll be having my Mongo log file. So let's try to see, right, what it is having. So it's having whole bunch of information. Maybe we'll have a look at all these details, like what these data files represent, and like what this log file tells and all. In our upcoming videos we'll talk more about it, but this is how the installation which we do will be done. So one quick thing maybe I want to tell you is, again like this is something we could have discussed later also. I can use this also. Maybe we have connected here, right? So this is our default instance, by the way. So let's show DBs. Use test show collections. By the way, like MongoDB is case sensitive. Okay, if I do this, it's not going to give. So since it is case sensitive, we have to be careful with whatever we are typing. Okay, let's do this thing. I just want to show you one quick thing. I'm just doing a find. Okay, so this collection, if you remember, let's see if I have that command here. Okay, so this is what we wrote. So I just inserted only one specific, you can say, column, just to easily reference. But if you look at the output, it is having underscore id, and then I have my id which was inserted from my end. So this underscore id is a default thing, okay, which gets inserted and it generates this number. So this also has some details stored in it. Okay, so for example, let me try to insert one more record, then probably it will be much more easy to see like what's going on. Let's say id and I'll say 1. So the advantage of Mongo is in fly you can change this collation, I mean not collation, this system design or the number of columns which you have, right? So in RDBMS, if you remember, in our previous session we talked about like challenges with RDBMS, and I think we explained about this, like how we can have a change in your table design in a given document. You can have one document with 2 columns and another document with 4 or 5 columns, right? So right now that is what we are going to do. So I just inserted another column and let's do a find. See, I can have say another document with completely in a different format, right? So that is the power of MongoDB. And coming to this ID, let's pick this for example, and let's go back to the notepad. Let's paste it here. So one quick thing I can tell, one interesting thing I would say. So let's pick the first 8 thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this first 8 digits, whatever you see here, this represents when my record got updated, or when this record was inserted or updated or modified, you can think of. So to understand like, or to convert that, so we have something called epoch converter. Okay, epoch converter in Linux basically. So let's go here and I can put this here. So this says a minute ago this record was inserted. Okay, now let's take the previous one. So let's take this ID for example, which we inserted quite like 5 or in the like quite some time back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's pick this and let's see, this is like 24 minutes back. So this, so you might be, initially you would have thought like this object ID is some random numbers, but if you watch closely, like it follows a pattern. Okay, so this is just one hidden thing, like or interesting thing I would say, like using which you could simply query and get this data. Again, like whether this column is mandatory or not, it depends on your application design. Okay, so I can have something like this also written, which means like I can say underscore id and I can define some number and I can have that. So now if I do like this, so you will not be having this big hexadecimal number or something. Okay, So you will lose this functionality if you are going to manually define this value. So basically this is like, you can think of, by default Mongo will be having an index on this, and you cannot have duplicate values on this underscore id column. Okay, so for example, if I try to insert this data again, it will throw an error saying like duplicate key. So Mongo maintains this for its own like internal thing, and it is up to us like whether if we want to leverage this or not. So this is one interesting thing I thought of telling you guys. But coming to the installation part, so that's all. So we saw the default installation, and how you can do manual installation also. So that's it for this video. Maybe in next video we'll talk about storage engines or security. So there are a whole bunch of other things, right? So we'll come up. So I'll try to come up with the next other topic, and we can have more discussion on that. So I hope you guys like the video. So please do leave a comment or share the feedback, like so that will help us to improve. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Bye.